whether you're here with us in the sanctuary or at home, relaxing and watching us on Facebook. We're just glad that you're here spending some time with us. Rabbi John is feeling a little bit under the weather, so he is not joining us this evening. And instead, Pam Marshall, our new VP of Religious Practices, Cantor Joel, and myself, we are leading the service, co-leading the service.
Co-president Tina DeGan.
Yeah. So tonight, we are remembering Tisha B'Av. And it's at that time, in the beginning of the service, it's customary to announce the number of years since the destruction of the first temple. 2,609 years have passed since the Babylonians ransacked our temple and dispersed us from our homeland and Jerusalem.
Tisha B'Av is named for the 9th day of the month of Av. It commemorates the destruction of both the first temple and the second temple in Jerusalem, which occurred 656 years apart to the day. Accordingly, Tisha B'Av has been called the saddest day in Jewish history. Psalm 136, verses 1 through 6, speaks of our exile from Jerusalem to Babylonia in the year 586 BCE.
At Babel's rivers, there we sat and there we wept when we remembered Zion. There, beside the river's willows, we hung up our harps because our captors there demanded of us words of song. And those who mocked us called for sounds of joy. Sing for us one of the songs of Zion. How can we sing a song of Zion's strength upon a foreign soil? If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, may my right hand forget its strength. Let my tongue cling thickly to my palate if I ever fail to keep you in my memory, if I should ever fail to hold Jerusalem above my highest joy.
Tonight, we will light a Yizkor candle to honor the past and to remember the loss of Jerusalem. But in today's world, we can't just mourn the historical loss of Jerusalem. We must also mourn the loss of life that is occurring all around us, from a pandemic, from fires, from riots and wars, from floods, and from so many tragedies.
Yes, let us think of Jerusalem, particularly with all that is going on right now in Jerusalem and in Israel. But let us also think about the health of all of our world. Like our ancestors, let us weep as did our ancestors near the waters of Babylon.
The words to the psalm by the waters of Babylon can be found on page 674 in your Siddur. By the waters of Babylon, there we lay and wept for thee, Zion. We remember thee, Zion, by the waters of Babylon. We lay down and wept for thee, Zion. We remember thee, Zion, by the Babylon. We lay down and wept for thee, Zion. We remember thee, Zion. We continue with Esa Enai, which can be found on page 643. This is Psalm 121. And the words to this, the translation, oh, I think I misplaced it. Let's see. What page did I say it was? 643. I lift my eyes to the mountains. From where does my help come? My help comes from God, maker of heaven and earth. Saenai el Heharim Me'ayin Yavo Ezri Saenai el Heharim Me'ayin Yavo Ezri Me'im Adonai Ose Shamayim Ba'aretz Ezri Me'im Adonai Ose Shamayim Ba'aretz.
Tomorrow, the D'Alessio family will be celebrating Naomi's bat mitzvah. We would like to invite all of you, your family, to come on up and light the Shabbos candles.
Come on up, guys. Don't be afraid. There are candles from you guys.
Yes.
La 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya ra 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 ya ra 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav V'tzivanu להדליק נר וציוונו להדליק נר וציוונו להדליק נר של שבת.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yes, Lord, thank you. We'll see somebody back up here soon for the Vehavta. Congratulations.
The Book of Lamentations is called Echa in Hebrew. Echa is a poetic book of the Hebrew Bible composed by the Jewish prophet Jeremiah and consists of 5 poems. It mourns the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple in the 6th century BCE.
In Judaism, this book is traditionally recited on the fast day of Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, the saddest day in our calendar. Echa means how, and is the key word for this song of wailing. Let us share with you verses from chapter 1, verses 1 through 6, and chapter 5, verses 19 through 22 of Echa.
Echa, how lonely sits the city that was full of people. She has become like a widow. She that was great among the nations and princess among the provinces has become a vassal.
She weeps bitterly in the night, and her tears are on her cheeks. Among all her lovers, she has none to comfort her. All her friends have dealt treacherously with her. They have become her enemies.
She has gone into exile because of affliction and because of great servitude. She dwells among the nations. She finds no rest. All her pursuers overtook her in the midst of her distress.
The roads to Zion mourn, because none come to the appointed feasts. All her gates are desolate. Her priests sigh, her virgins are afflicted, and she is in bitterness.
Her enemies prosper, for the Eternal has afflicted her for the multitude of her transgressions. Her infants have gone to captivity before the enemy, and from the daughter of Zion all her splendor is departed.
Her princes have become like deer that find no pasture, and they are gone without strength before the pursuer.
You, O Eternal, are enthroned forever. Your throne is from generation to generation. Why do you forget us forever and forsake us for so long?
Turn us to you, O Eternal, and we shall be turned. Renew our days of old. But you have utterly rejected us. You are very angry against us. Take us back, O God, to yourself, and let us come back. Renew our days of old.
We now rise, if you're able, for the Baruch Hu on page 146.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach, hamevorach le'olam va'ed. Hamevorach, hamevorach le'olam va'ed.
Please remain standing for the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod, Malchuto, Leolam Vaed.
Naomi, it's your turn. Come on up.
If you have a bat mitzvah tomorrow, come on up and do the V'ahavta with us. We need a microphone, actually, from Naomi. Can I borrow?
Yeah.
Thank you. Sure. Here, you're going to be over here. Do you want to hold it? Or you want to stand? Let's put that there. Do you want the words? Let's get the words up for it. What page? 154. Just make sure you're at the microphone.
Would everybody please be seated?
Please join us. We're on page 154.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך. ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך, בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך, ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך. וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Yasher Koach. Good job.
Nicely done.
I could hear your brother out there. I know who your study buddy was. Tisha B'Av is associated with other great tragedies that have befallen the Jewish people. The trauma of the 9th of Av is not limited to just the destruction of the first and second temples.
12 spies, actually 12 tribal leaders, princes, were sent to scout Canaan, the land flowing with milk and honey. They came back and spoke of wonders, but after speaking of wonders, 10 of the 12 said the inhabitants are giants. The land, though, which we traveled in a land which devours its inhabitants. We will not beat them. God has brought us to die in the desert. And that night the Israelites wailed.
Rabbi Yochanan taught that night that the people wailed, it was Tisha B'Av. God said to them, "You wept for no reason, and I shall set this day before you as a time of weeping throughout the generations." That is how the rabbis explained the start of this sad date in our history, a date when so many tragedies befell us.
It teaches there is a time to weep, but when you do weep, make sure it is appropriate at an appropriate time. Focus on the good and don't let fear control you.
According to the Mishnah and later traditions, the day commemorates not just the destruction of our two temples and the sin of the 12 spies, but also the razing of Jerusalem following the siege of Jerusalem in 70 CE, the failure of Bar Kokhba's revolt against the Roman Empire, the expulsion of the Jews from England in 1290, the expulsion of Jews from Spain in 1492, the eruption of World War I in 1914, the beginning of the 1942 deportation of Warsaw Ghetto Jews to the Treblinka extermination camp.
And oh, so many more nights of sorrow. But no matter where we were, we had Shabbat. No one could take it away from us because it is our palace of time. It lives on in a calendar and cannot be destroyed. It is a moment we create, Shabbat. It is a treasure which we will cherish forever. No matter where Jews were forced to go, Shabbat always went with them. It was a shelter of peace.
Cantor Joel will now lead us in the Mika Mocha.
Please turn to page 158 and join me. Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar bakodesh, norat hilo osefele, norat hilo osefele, malchutecha ואהובתך בוקע הים לפני משה ומרים זה לי אנו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש נורא תהילות אוסף אלק נורא תהילות אוסף אלק. We continue with Hashkivenu, which can be found on page 160. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ושלום מעתה ועד עולם. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים.
Thank you. The Misha Barak is our prayer for healing. Tonight as we chant this prayer, we hold in our hearts all of those who are suffering in their body, mind, or spirit. We pray for those hurt by war, man-made climate change, hunger, homelessness, gun violence, and illness. Tonight, we specifically pray for Janet Blake, Pam Branner, Lynn Newman, Sharon Friedman, Diana Carew, Jeff Borowitz, Erwin Ames, Jeffrey Albaum, Baylor Robinson, Ed Edelson, Mark Jeff Stickler, Leanne Rosenberg, Trish Santana, David Berger, Dory Glazer, Glenn Martin, Paul Hiddleman, Victor Seidlow, Sharon Fisher, Mike Bergman, Michael Burton, Andrea Schlossberg, Lisa Sage, Ryan Spears, the Nolan family, Michelle Fierman, Jimmy Korshak, Ronnie Horowitz, Sydney Herstein, Sarah and Jacob Alon, Jaden Hernandez, Shelley Presby, and Ruth Nevins. If I've mispronounced a name and you want to correct it, or you have a name to add, please say it out loud at this time.
The Mishaberach can be found on page 371. Mishaberach Avoteinu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
It's the time of our service for the Amidah, the central prayer,
The
Okay.
standing prayer.
the standing prayer.
And
That
central
too.
prayer.
Oh.
It's also the central prayer of the service. Yeah.
Okay.
We're
of
both
them.
right.
Both correct. So if you would all please rise, Cantor Joel is going to lead us.
We're on page 164. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agiteilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו ואהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל אתה, רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, צומח נופלים ברופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו בלי שני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל. We continue silently. When you're done with your silent prayer, you may be seated.
Tonight, in lieu of a traditional drash, we would like to ask up Saray Shenkin and Mark Vidal, who both took part in.
I want to sing a song first.
Oh, we're gonna backtrack. 30 seconds. Hit rewind. We're gonna sing a song.
As is tradition. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
I think we're doing pretty well, all things considered. One little hiccup. Tonight, in lieu of a traditional drash, we would like to ask up Saray Schenken and Mark Vidal, who both took part in this year's Kol Tikva mission to Israel. The group, led by Rabbi John, visited the old city of Jerusalem, the Wall, Yad Vashem, and many other places of tragedy that come to mind on Tisha B'Av. We're going to ask them to come up and share their thoughts on visiting these places and share their words and hopefully some hope. So Saray and then Mark after Saray.
Hello. Well, when Pam asked us to speak about this holiday, better, as well as share some of our thoughts and feelings from our recent trip to Israel, at first I thought this is going to be a stretch. But once I realized what this holiday was about, my deep feelings about the temple wall, the kotel, immediately came to mind. And I knew exactly what I wanted to share with you tonight. On the day that we were to visit the old city in Jerusalem, I awoke with great anticipation. Would I feel the same way today as I wandered through the ancient tunnels filled with tiny shops and archaeological sites as I did 10 years ago on my first trip to Israel? Then it was a Friday night when I walked to the wall amid a bustle of Jews, all hurrying to be on time to welcome the Sabbath. There were young families dressed beautifully for the occasion, pushing strollers and holding older children by the hand. I saw multiple ethnicities, heard different languages, and saw people of all ages coming from every direction. I thought at that time, what could it have been like on a Friday night 3,000 years ago? How many people would have been there? Would there have been any women and children in the crowd walking on the sandy streets? When we arrived at the women's area of the kotel, it was very crowded, with lines forming to get near the wall. I had no idea how I would feel, or if I even wanted to touch the wall. As I slowly got closer, I knew I wanted to feel the stones, to close my eyes and put myself back in time to the women who preceded me. I truly felt a kinship with every Jewish woman then, now, and into the future. Flash forward to Thursday, June 29th, 2023, and again, I was in the tunnels. It was 10 o'clock in the morning, and some of the shops were still closed. It was quiet. There were few people around. We walked through part of an old Roman shopping area situated underground that had been excavated, and saw how Jerusalem was changing even thousands of years ago. We walked to the wall at the end of the tour. It was noisy and busy, and the air resounded with music. Looking over the divider into the men's section, we could see multiple bar mitzvahs taking place. Standing on chairs next to the divider on the women's side were the mothers, sisters, aunts, and bubbies of the boys, watching, throwing candy, and kfelling. I returned to the wall again, stood in line with a message given to Sam from our Kol Tikva community to place in the cracks of the ancient rocks. I was touched to my core once again as I closed my eyes with my hand touching the wall. This time, I thought about the women who had endured the horror of the Holocaust, coming here for the first time after their long journey from Europe. What were they thinking when they touched these stones and wept, as I wept for them that day?
I just want to offer an introduction. This is Mark Vidal, and for those of you that don't know, Mark is our new Vice President of Membership on the board.
Good evening. I really appreciate it. Thank you for asking me to talk about that, because our trip to Israel was my first, my wife's, third or fourth, but it was very impactful for me in many, many ways. What really stuck out to me and still sticks to me this day is going to the wall for the first time. I had the honor and pleasure of going with Steve Page. We decided to go on Shabbat. We didn't know if we could, but we found out we could. We went to the wall on Shabbat, and there was no one there. It was wonderful. We'd gone a day or two before and got close, but there was, like you said, multiple bar mitzvahs and everything going on. But the fact that it was empty was impactful. And then as we walked to the wall, we were maybe 10 or 15 feet from it. I hadn't touched it. And something came over me. Tears came to my eyes. I felt something powerful and strong that really moved me. And when I got to the wall and I prayed, I put my notes in a little prayer, I felt something, that I hadn't felt before, or at least as impactful as it was. And I'm still searching for what that is, but I think I know. But as we looked at the temple itself, I'd never had a good understanding of the impact on the Jewish people. So the other place we visited was Masada. And if anybody's been to Masada or knows the story, the people that fled Jerusalem and went to Masada, whole stories around that. And those all tied together with being asked to speak about Tish B'Av. And it's coming together for me, if you will, so bear with me. As we talked about, Tish B'Av is a solemn and significant day in the Jewish calendar. I've been asked to talk about it briefly, and I'll make it brief. I want to share my understanding of it, and it's an evolving understanding. Yours may be different. I'd love to hear about it. As we said, Tish B'Av falls on the 9th day of Av. It's a Jewish day of mourning, typically, and reflection. But why do we celebrate this holiday? What does it mean? I don't know if you know, but these are two questions I ask on most Jewish holidays, except for the big ones. What is it? What does it mean? Why are we celebrating? But on this day, we remember and commemorate the destruction of the first and second temples in Jerusalem. Okay. But what about it? Why are we celebrating? I didn't really, honestly, I didn't know. But these temples are not just physical structures. They're symbols of our connection to God and to each other. Their loss was a profound tragedy that shook the Jewish community to its core. Tish B'Av is not just about mourning historical events. It's an opportunity for us to reflect on the ongoing challenges and injustices in our world. It serves as a reminder of the importance of empathy and compassion towards others who suffer and experience loss. As Reformed Jews, we believe in repairing the world, tikkun olam, and Tish B'Av encourages us to redouble our efforts in doing so. During this time, we read from the book of Lamentations. Well, some of us do, but that really captures the anguish and sorrow of the Jewish people after the destruction of Israel. These verses remind us of the pain that comes from the breakdown of community, the loss of sacred space, and the displacement of our people. When I put that together, I thought about that, it really struck me because, let me read it again. The verses remind us of the pain that comes from the breakdown of community, the loss of a sacred space, and the displacement of our people. That, for me, engage in the acts of tikkun olam in our grief, our Jewish faith in a brighter future. May this day of reflection and remembrance deepen our connection to our Jewish identity, inspire us to work towards a healing our broken world, and fill us with hope for a future of peace and harmony. Thank you for being here today, and may we find solace and strength in each other as we observe Tish B'Av together. Shalom.
His father-in-law was a great rabbi. I think some of it may have rubbed off. It is now time.
Yeah, at this time, we'd like to call it Matt Telesio,
Yes.
father of the bat mitzvah girl Naomi, board member, to give announcements.
Yes.
So we've heard a lot about all these different tragedies that have befallen the Jewish people on this day on the 9th of Av. It's actually not the 9th of Av anymore. We've moved on to the next couple days here. And what's important about that is that on the 10th of Av, we had to start rebuilding. And a lot of that rebuilding fell upon the next generation. And so I here need to take off my proud papa kippah and put on my official board member kippah for the temple here. And on behalf of the temple, I'd like to call up my daughter, Naomi, who is that next generation. Yay. And will be coming to the Bima tomorrow. So to make this official, because Naomi's not convinced that this is just from me, could I have our board members please stand? So Mark and Karen and anybody else out there today, and of course here, on behalf of the board of Temple Kol Tikva, we'd like to present to you this special Kiddush cup in honor of your bat mitzvah. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. You can go back.
Congratulations. Yes.
Go ahead. Okay. While they're doing that, we want to join us at the Oneg. I'll be out there with my family, and you can meet us or any of the other board members. And thank you so much for joining us this Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Thank you. It's now time for the Mourner's Kaddish. Tonight, we amazingly have no recently departed people to acknowledge. But we do have yard sites. Tonight, we remember Victoria Besman, Mark Kaplan, Esther Cohen, Ben Eisenberg, Rick Essex, Beatrice Feynman, Harold Glucksman, Rose Cassell, Robert Joseph Kay, Jesse Levy, Charlotte Newman, Ellen Marcia Pittler, Julie Polly, Pauline Seawack, Nathan Shapiro, Marion Steingeiser, Francis Stusser, Beatrice Thaler, and Jeanette Weissman.
If you would like to offer a name for the Kaddish, please do so right now. If you are currently experiencing Shiva the first week of mourning, please stand. If you're currently experiencing Shiloshim the first month of mourning, please rise. And if you're mourning your first year, please rise. These are the mourners in our midst. Please rise to offer your support.
The Kaddish can be found on page 598. Yikadal v'yikadash shmei Rabbah, v'almad divrach Yeruteh, v'yamlich malchuteh, v'chayachon v'yomechon, v'chayeh l'chol Beit Yisrael, b'gala u'bizman kariv, v'imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal, shmei kudsha b'richu. Leila mikol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu el kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom mimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu el kol Yisrael ve'el kol yoshvei tevel v'imru Amen. We'd like to conclude tonight's service with the Israeli national anthem. This is the Hope HaTikva. Do we have a page number for that?
It's somewhere up around the front.
Somewhere in the back. Or the front? You said the front?
I guess it is the back. The back.
Kol od baleva penima, nefesh Yehudi tomia, ulfate mizrach kadima, ayin letzion Sophia. בירושלים, להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון בירושלים.
So now Joel is going to lead us in our blessings over the wine and the challah. And at this time, we'd like to, a face we haven't seen in a while, happy to see, Liz Newman. Why don't you bring your family up and hold the wine and the challah? Okay. Start with Kiddush cup.
Good place to start. Cool glasses. Hi. Nice. You can all raise your imaginary cup. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen l'chaim. You can have a sip. Yeah. It's real grape juice, I think. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon. Shabbat shalom. Come on up and get some. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Pam. Shabbat shalom, hey, Shabbat shalom.
Come get some challah up here. And then there's also the onik.
Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, hey, Shabbat shalom, hey, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom. Hey, Shabbat Shalom. Hey, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Hey, Shabbat Shalom. Hey, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom.